All right.
There you
Yay.
go.
So everything we say now is preserved forever up in the clouds. So watch what you're saying. And no side comments from Itzy, okay? We don't need Itzy to join in at all. I can understand why you're holding Itzy, but all right. Bill, I suppose will meet us eventually. Process committee now.
Does anybody have a phone number for Bill they can call real quickly?
I do
I
not
don't have his number.
one. I don't
Patty.
have one.
I know it's here somewhere, but I'm not sure how to find it.
Okay, well, we won't distract ourselves. I just hate to have him not in this particular conversation.
Oh yeah, he's an important character.
Let me see if
I've got an agenda here. Go ahead. You can try and reach him. The first thing I want to do, obviously, we're doing the roll call by saying, "Hey, where's Bill?" So the roll call is done. But before we go into the rest of the agenda, I'd like to go around and ask everybody why they wanted to be on this committee. Okay, and that'll give us all an idea. I'll go last, and Liz, you're up in the corner there. Why don't we start with you?
Okay. Similar to what I said at my last night's meeting, 4 years ago, I joined a group of about 30 people who were walking from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. around the climate issues and the impact. So that was in 2014. And it was heart-wrenching to me to see in state after state, New Mexico, Iowa, Pennsylvania, all along there, the individual stories of when their government hadn't represented them, and the loss, the financial loss, the emotional loss, the personal loss that it causes when people really aren't self-governing. And we think so much that our government is here to protect us, and that's just not the case when big ag or big something is involved. So that's what, and then the election, of course, heightened my interest in how government works and doesn't work more often. So I joined this committee in particular because I'm interested in a more expansive home rule charter. And I know it's designed to be about process, and I get that, but I think there's more latitude in terms of what a home rule charter can look like. And I want to make sure it has teeth to protect our ability to self-govern. And teeth, when I say teeth, I'm usually looking towards, big business and what, the power that they have to override, the wishes of the people. So how do we protect our air, our water, our rural setting, in the face of the growth that's going to happen here? And for me, I have a bit of an awareness about the technology changes that are coming. And so I'm really aware that we cannot envision the future that's in front of us. So to try and do the best we can to set up a governance in a world that we cannot imagine. So between the changes that are coming in technology, drones, self-driving cars, the ability, to telecommute, which is already here kind of thing. And you add into that the devastating effect that climate chaos is going to bring, then, it's just a future we can't envision. So trying to do what I could to try and help create the best possible document with those things in mind.
Thank you. And Liz, of course, lives here on, I say here because I'm here too, on Lopez. But it's, of course, our responsibility to represent everyone in the county. Patty, how about you?
Wow.
Why did you want to
so much? I mean, I'm in awe of her and her ability to envision the future, which I have absolutely no no idea. I'm so glad I'm not working anymore because all of our technology has changed so much. I'd have to learn all the systems at the University of Washington all over again after being there for 40 some years. It's just crazy. I came to this committee partly because I'm the advocate of the other side. I'm sort of a person who likes to keep things simple. And I could see that, oh my gosh, we have so much to say and so many things, but let's try to keep it as simple as possible and as clear as possible so that we don't get lost in language. And I think we need some of that language because it's important that we include everything and everybody. But I'm, the other side of the coin looking for simplicity, but I think we can get there. We can get there. I'm so proud to live here. I live on San Juan Island, but I'm just really proud of this total county. I've been connected with the island since 1952, so I have a long memory. And it's very impressive what we do. My grandfather in Seattle, he came here at the turn of the century and he started building houses. Sunset Hill, where we lived, used to be a forest. And, he cleared it off and built houses there. I know, I don't want that happening up here where we no longer have our beauty. And so, yeah, it's really important what you guys are doing. And I'm going to kind of be there and observe and throw my 2 cents worth in just to try keeping it as clear as possible. Period.
Okay, well, that be a very on all this. So, although I, you know, you
Hey,
can't hear,
Bob,
you can't hear.
Bob, if you can hear us, your audio is not matching. Your video's frozen and your audio is delayed. So
Okay.
I'd much rather hear what you have to say for a second. If you can shut your video down,
Shut the video down.
Why not?
Yeah, shut the video down.
And see what happens. How about now? Any better?
That didn't help.
Can you?
not so far.
No. Okay, listen, I'm gonna work on this. And Kyle, why don't you go ahead, tell what you want to be.
Okay, can you hear
Did you
okay?
hear
'Cause I'd love you to be able to hear all of it.
Yeah,
There you
I
are
can
now.
hear.
Okay. Mine is, I think my interest is pretty simple. It is parts of Patty's and Liz's also. I was very struck by the concept of the preamble and the Bill of Rights and the idea that we can, and this came up really in justice and equity when we spoke yesterday. When I read through the current charter, it's functional, it's nuts and bolts. It really doesn't have a lot of the vision language or the values of San Juan County in it. And
Sorry.
I'm not sure if we take all of that or most of that and put that at the top in some kind of introduction or preamble, and then the document as it's written continues to be this sort of skeletal sheet music. But I really do think there's a gap between, and now is the right time actually to do to stitch in those kinds of values into the language. And I appreciate Patty's idea of simplicity and maintaining readability. That is important. And I'm kind of eager to do this, not today, but as we move forward and start the work, actually pull specific pieces from the current charter and talk about how you change language or modify language, I guess, in order to be able to represent those values. So, the process, and there's certainly some overlap with equity. One of my big pieces over there is more broad representation for the tribes, for our historical native history here, for populations that are underserved and marginalized. And some of that goes into process specifically. So I think in order to be able to, demonstrate that we value something other than, our 97% white sort of, and county government at the same time is sort of, there's some atrophy. A lot of people who are retiring aren't being replaced because of costs to the county. And so on the one hand, we're kind of condensing who the county government is, and on the same hand, needing to protect what's valued here in the island archipelago more and more, just to make sure that that stays intact. Go ahead, Bob. I don't hear you at all now, just so you know, and your video is really slow. Can you call in? Or maybe you're working on calling in. Can we come to your house and put up a 400-foot antenna?
Good idea, Kyle.
I think everybody knows anyway in the gap here. I'm on San Juan Island also. I came here right out of college in the mid-90s. And I feel strongly there's not much to do about it now, but I'm so glad that somebody like Olivia is on board, having the more youthful and family, not that all of us aren't family oriented, but to have people in government working and part of this sort of this civic effort who are more affected oftentimes by the stuff we think of and decide. Having those people represented is really important, and that's been lacking the 25 and some years I've been here. So that's a goal too. And I think for process, making sure the charter works, making sure that a charter government at the county level works for all those people is how I would summarize.
Great. I'm going to try the telephone.
Okay.
You probably can't hear me still, right?
No.
I can hear you.
Somehow
No.
that was good.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, of course. Now you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to stay on this, and maybe I'll have to go to the telephone.
What we didn't say, is somebody able to
Yeah.
take notes? Were you going to get to that? Even though we're recording?
Hadn't gotten to that yet. I thought I remembered Liz volunteering to do that. Did you volunteer to do that? Not today, but at some other time?
No, it is not a skill
Um,
set I have. I am no good at it. So it's not a reluctance to do it. It's just my brain is no good at it. So I apologize, but
I can try.
Is there anyone else who would like to do it?
I'll
Thank
just
you,
take
Patty, so
notes.
much.
It won't be like minutes, but
Yeah.
it'll be notes as to what happened.
That would be great, Patty.
Well,
Very much.
we we'll write minutes. And then, but I'm getting a sign that says my internet connection is unstable. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. All right, I'm sorry. This may just go on, and at some point you have to revert telephone, but for now, okay. Is there any, are there any, you all have you seen the agenda that I sent? Did everybody see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Find it.
Are there any additions to the agenda anyone would like to make?
I would like to hear your purposing and reasoning
No.
at some point. Too.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, I started off wanting to be a member of the commission in general as a sense of service, serving the community. And I had heard about this charter and what its effect was on the way our government worked. To tell you the truth, I come from a position of being fairly satisfied with the way our government works, with one basic exception. I think that in the 8 years since this charter was put in place, amended last, our county has become more progressive, somewhat more progressive. I know that I'm personally a progressive politically, and one particular thing that I think is very important needs to be added to our chart, some provision about caring for the environment and climate change, et cetera. I think that is extremely important. I'd like to see something added, but beyond that, my general approach to this is, I think, a little bit like what Patty's observation was, if I got that correct. That is to not disturb it too much, unless we have a really strong reason to do it. Also to watch out for putting things in the charter, which ought to be ordinances, which it's like trying to amend the Constitution when you provide for aid for COVID or something like that. You don't amend the Constitution to do that. But to lay down a basic principle that is not presently there, that might be worth it, okay? As far as this committee, which was originally called the Preamble Committee, I was interested in what the preamble says. I'm kind of a constitutional attorney and kind of a constitutional scholar, sort of. I mean, lots of stuff. But when I say scholar,
Oops.
and the idea of the am I still there?
Yes.
Somebody say yes. Back and forth.
Skin of your teeth. Keep going.
Okay. The idea of a pre-constitution, what it can be, the U.S. Constitution, just puts a lump in my throat. It's kind of sappy, but that's how I feel about it. And so I thought it would be good to have the very best preamble that we. By the way, another thing that I sent along to you was the proposed preamble that I wrote up some time ago. And I hope can serve as a point of departure.
No, you're gone.
Bob, since it worked the other day for you to call in, can you recreate that? Because you're
Yeah,
going in and out.
I have to find the number to call.
I
Oh,
can probably help you here. Hold on a second. That was in one of Olivia's email.
and the invite to this meeting.
If I had a pen, I'd write it down. Let's see.
Okay, I've got it when you're ready.
I am, yes.
253
Two,
215
215
8782.
8782. So 1-253-215-8782. Sean, you think it's okay to just dial that? Sean, think it's okay to just dial that with this, or do I have to?
What?
I'm trying to call in.
Yes,
Do I need, because we're in Mexico, do I need some other code, or do I just use this?
just call in.
All right, I need to use the one, right?
One.
I think about Olivia and the challenge she has with working with 17, 60-plus-year-olds.
Yeah.
So Kyle, I think you may be the only one that doesn't know I have just brought home Saturday 11-week-old puppy. So
I have noticed.
so my hands look like I've been playing in the cactus field again.
I heard a little, I can hear some no softly in the background.
Oh, there's the number.
You might need that. I don't know if that's the code number or not. It's what's on the screen.
Oh. 84296134309. Thank you.
Yep, I'll
Okay.
keep it here if you need it. We're gonna have to figure out how to solve this for Bob moving forward, because this is
Yeah.
continue to.
It wants another number.
Meeting ID,
Right.
maybe?
Put in the plus sign and then the area code.
What?
Put in the plus sign and then 1 and then 360 F,
Okay,
the plus sign.
okay, I'm gonna back up then.
Did I hear you say you were in Mexico?
There's,
Did I hear that right?
They
yes.
go off island
Since
every
January.
winter.
Off island.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. For
That's way far south of Lopez, Bob.
it is. Hey,
they go
okay.
soak in the sunshine for a couple of months. So
You come here and call this number and try and connect me.
Sure.
My wife is gonna help with the telephone number.
Back.
while Bob is doing that, I just also wanted to kind of
What is the number?
problem solve about Bill not being here and trying to set a regularly scheduled meeting. So
Yes,
again,
This one?
if anybody can easily
one.
find his number to try and see.
Okay, let's see.
I'm just trying to coach this little one who's been up since early. She won't nap. I'm trying to get her to just calm.
Well, good
Yeah,
luck with that.
Thank you. She's just too tired is what it is. So
number that you may have to enter once we get through.
I have a phone number on his letterhead, but it's a 206. I bet that's an office number, don't you think?
yeah,
Mhm.
probably. Oh no,
Could be.
it could be
his
cell.
cell.
Try it.
Call it.
Just give it a try.
And um,
Then pound
hang on,
8 4
1 minute.
that's a 4 2
No.
9 7 1 3 4 3 0 9 pound.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. You are in the meeting now. There are 4 participants in the meeting.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
But there's music playing. They said, you are in the meeting. There are 4 participants. Now I got this music. Can you guys hear the music? Okay, there I am. If I turn this down, I hear myself, which is irritating. Take these off. And I have this. I've got earphones for my telephone.
Okay, fine.
Somebody talk.
I've been looking for that darn
You're not
telephone
hearing my
number.
voice twice, all right?
I was, but now I'm not. It's good now. It's
I
good
think
now.
It's
good now.
I'm still hearing it twice. I have to get rid of.
Oh,
You could just-
okay.
Just a second.
You can just mute yourself on the screen and you should be okay.
That
We
would
just,
be the shortcut, wouldn't it?
your lips and your phone won't quite match, and Bill will join us in a second. I did get him on the phone.
Oh, sweet. Good.
Can you guys hear me now?
I
Yeah,
barely
I'm
hear you.
hearing
If you
myself.
turn up your phone.
Yeah, turn in. It's pretty
You know what?
soft.
I think I know what to do. Go in here. Boom.
You won't need your headphone. Well, maybe you'll need to hear us that way.
Maybe you will.
I'm looking at the agenda here a little bit. I'm okay. I mean, we'll hear from Bill. I'm okay with this time slot. I'm just going to be the wild card, I think. But if we wanted to keep this, we had a goal at at Equity yesterday of keeping it to an hour, and a lot of it was, some of it was social time, but we were challenged. We went an hour 20. So an hour and a half is probably reasonable. And we decided just for sort of process that we would put the note, and I'm happy to do this, put any notes that Patty takes and the recording of the meeting into the files section on Teams. And if anybody at the end of this needs some, some hands-on time, if someone can let me share my screen later, I can show you how to access that. So lots of options.
Yeah, I'm a total dinosaur with this, and I've got a Mac, and I just haven't really, in fact, it took me a while to figure out with our email system that once you reply to something, the email goes out of your inbox and goes into sent mail. I mean, it's just a different system. I'm used to Gmail and simplicity and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it'll be a learning curve for me for sure.
And my computer is just old enough that I can't do a desktop version of Outlook. So I'm doing Outlook from the internet, the web one, and it's totally funky. So, and Olivia and I were trying to troubleshoot, and she said they have that version at work, and she said it just made her crazy and she quit using it. So, Bob,
You're proving your own points.
Guys hear me now at all? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Nee.
how do we turn his volume up?
I wish I knew.
Where is your phone sitting? It's in your hand.
Yeah, Bob, we can hear you, but it's very faint. Put the phone right to your mouth or something.
Volume all the way up.
Volume's up.
Is it on speaker? Is your phone on speaker?
Now we can't hear him at all. Oh. All right, so it may take us to July.
Those "can you hear me now" commercials were
Yes.
so ahead of their time.
Have you guys seen the YouTube video of Alexa for seniors?
No.
Go out and just go to YouTube and put in Alexa for seniors. It is absolutely a hoot. Here comes Bill. There we go. Yes. So Bill, what you have missed, can you hear me okay, Bill?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So what you've missed is the Bob and Liz show of techno challenges. And we did do a fairly decent round of what drew us to be on this particular committee. But I'm so glad you're here because we want to sort out a regular meeting date. Bob, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me
There,
now?
yes,
Yay.
yes, excellent.
Okay, so I'm on now.
You hear me?
Yes,
Okay, I'm using my telephone.
and Bill, yes, we
And,
can hear you.
Thank you so much. If we get to a point where you can't hear me, will someone please, raise your hand, let me know that you can't hear me, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Bob, if you can
All
if you can put your phone right in front of you and leave it sort of where your mouth to the phone is the shortest distance, we'll probably have the most luck.
Can you not hear me?
All right.
We can hear you, Bill.
We can
Yes.
hear you, Bill. Or
Bob's been having connectivity problems, so he switched over to calling in. Yeah.
How's the volume now? Can you hear me? Okay.
yeah.
Yes.
What times are you
Good.
talking about?
Please let me know.
We're just now getting
I'm
started
having to
on that,
use
Bill.
my phone. Right. Believe it or not, we spent all this time trying to get my phone fixed, my volume fixed. So anyway, here we are. And Bill, we already went around and talked about why we wanted to be on this committee. Can you tell us something about that? I know you were around you were on the last mission, were you not? Can't hear me?
We can hear you, Bob. Bob?
Bill,
can
can you
hear you.
hear people?
Okay, Bill, can you hear me?
No, you're coming through as
Okay.
a kind of a series of growls.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
that's not good.
Bob is asking in the
Do
meantime.
the rest, are the rest of you hearing me okay?
Yes.
You're hearing me? Okay. The other three are hearing me okay, but I'm growls to you, Bill. What is that about? Why would it be different?
So
I
Bob,
suggested something on your end.
Kyle's just going to interpret your questions for Bill.
We can do this.
Thanks,
So
Kyle.
some
wow.
speed thing
Go
at
ahead.
Bill's end is maybe an issue too. So we've been around, as we said, Bill, already. The four of us have sort of talked about what brings us with particular interest to the process part, this subcommittee. Bob was asking if you had, in fact, been on a previous review cycle, previous review committee, and if that had anything to do with why you were interested. So we just like to hear what brings you to the process committee.
Oh, okay. Well, I can only tell you that last time round was different, which is why I scraped a little with Kevin, for which I don't feel great, because what we did was divide into teams that worked a little differently, because we knew, considering the issues at the time, which were 3 versus 6, was the big one, but there were some other issues that we would have to do the 3 versus 6 as a whole, which is pretty much the way the environmental is shaping up for us here, because so many people are concerned about it. But the other thing was the fact that we were going to end up putting a number of different proposals to the voters. You always have to think about, what is your product? Well, our product is going to be election propositions. And what I was talking to Kevin about is that it's probably wiser to break up in accordance with what the propositions are going to be divided, because what's going to happen with our group is that we're going to go through a number of subjects, but some of the subjects are going to be double, and some of them are going to be single, and some of the singles need to be wrapped together with one of the other singles to come to a single proposition. We worked closely with Randy on that to begin with, and so it was more efficient. And I guess I showed a little irritation, for which again I apologize,
Great.
because recognizing that our time is so short with these meetings, we would meet every Saturday for a minimum of 6 hours, and that's what it took. And so I am really concerned, and that's why I wrote Kevin also about saying we need to think about aiming for next year, not this year, because it's going to be tough to get a job done unless somebody figures what they can do is to bucket this down into a result that they've predetermined, which I sincerely hope does not happen. This is a group project. So with those cautions, that's how I came into this one. In this one, for our committee, for instance, on our preface to the code, it would be twofold, because the preface will determine whether or not we're making technical changes, or whether we're making some fundamental changes, like special respect for the environment, which doesn't appear anywhere in our existing charter. If we do that, it certainly should be in the preamble. But if it isn't going to be in the preamble, there's no point putting it in the preamble, because it's really fundamentally a wish list. The preamble has no legal effect. And so I can see our group coming up with at least 2 proposals, depending on how it goes with the environmental position that is clearly floating around in the air. That's it. I just hope we all live through it.
Bill, did I
Well,
did I
thank
understand you to
Thank
say
Bill.
that,
Was,
Bill, did I understand you say that Kevin was on the last charter review process?
No, he was on the
Okay.
first.
The first, okay,
He's
okay.
not on the last one, but the first one was the one that created the 6-member council. The
Okay.
second one that I was on was the one that changed it back to 3, but which basically said that the commission, the board, had policy responsibilities and the county manager had executive responsibilities, just like a corporation.
Mhm.
And that was in answer to the fact that we had 6 before, and traditionally throughout the old days, before there was any charter, what you had was commissioners going out and talking to the different departments, leaning on them for people in their districts, and generally just screwing things up. Now we've had it happen here when Jamie got out of the box about a swamp, but I have to say that was a rare event. And the whole idea was to split the policy from the executive. Right now, there's a discussion about, for instance, making the executive elected. That has some problems because running a county, like running a city, is a profession. It isn't a popularity vote, although Snohomish County is famous for going the other way. And the result is that Snohomish County executive has a huge amount of political power and nobody can stop him. And they've had a lot of stuff go on there. But we'll have to make that choice. And again, this is a question about what we put in the preamble, as to whether we're talking about modeling that elected officials are responsible to the people for the policies they follow, and the executive damn well better follow them. The idea was to make the council politically responsible for what the executive did. And that was how we answered the question of not having an elected executive. But there are different points of view on that. And we're a different group and we'll see how it comes out.
Okay, Bill, thank you. Has everybody seen the agenda that I attached to the message? Have you seen it, Bill?
I have. I printed out. Are you talking about the agenda?
The little agenda? Right. Looks like this.
Is this the same
Got
thing?
it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's go over that briefly. The first thing we're going to, the conduct of these meetings. Let me say a word about that. I personally feel that since there's only one of us, we don't need to do the thing necessarily where we're all muted all the time. I think as long as we respect each other and don't start talking when someone else is already talking, and you wait, and then if 2 people start up, somebody backs off, okay? Just be careful about that. And if we can do it that way, because the group is so small, I think we'll have a more productive discussion than the whole bit about everybody staying muted all the time. Now, if you want to stay muted, so your, in my case, barky dog in the background won't interrupt, then you can do that, okay? Anything about the conduct of the meetings anyone would like to say? Okay. The next thing on the agenda will be subjects to be covered overall. By overall, I mean subjects that this committee needs to cover during its entire tenure, not necessarily today, okay? And then the fourth one is subjects that would be covered in this meeting. Well, as far as subjects to be covered during the entire tenure, I wrote down preamble. And I got this, by the way, from this thing, it's got all the ideas that people were concerned with. I don't believe that we need necessarily to handle all of these if we don't want to. And I believe also we can put things in addition to the ones that are here. Can everybody hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I wrote down, and looking at that list, I wrote down preamble first, then Bill of Rights, whatever that's going to be, if there's going to be such a thing added. We have some outside folks who are very thoughtful people who want something like that added, a Bill of Rights. And I think sometimes it sounds like they're talking about a Bill of Rights that nature has, or the world around us, not just human beings. And I think most of the time they're talking about that. Then the next thing is how the commission should go about gauging what problems have presented themselves in San Juan County in the past 9 years that require addressing by amendment of our charter. I mean, I think that there are three ways that you get charter amendments. One is the county council comes up with them. Another is that the citizens come up with them by way of initiative. And the third one is a regular review that happens periodically. Well, since we are not facing the first two, that means to me that there's no outcry in the community to change anything. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't change anything, but it means we're not facing, I don't think we're facing any outcry to change anything except possibly to talk about something regarding the environment. There is a bit of an outcry about that. But do you all see it the same way? Anybody want to make a comment about that?
You just
Kyle.
disappeared.
Bill might have been first. I can't tell if he's trying to listen or hold his hand up. I was just going to say, I was going to type it and then I thought I'll just say it. I'm eager to hear from anyone who calls in for the town hall kind of structure and gauge whether that's your last point is true or not. I think you're probably right until someone poses those questions, and then of course everyone has an opinion. But that might be really eye-opening to hear what the public has to say at a time like that. That was it.
Right.
I want to say
Thank
something.
you, Kyle. Patty?
Yeah, our committee should stay focused to what we are supposed to be doing with either the preamble and the Bill of Rights. And I think we need to keep focused on that area because the whole group is discussing everything else in their little pieces, and we'll come together and we will hear comments at the town halls that are great. I don't think that this particular committee needs to worry about the problems of the whole charter, but that's just me.
Bill?
Well, I
Bill?
think part of the problem with doing the preamble, which normally would come last, because we don't know what's going to be in the charter. And that's my problem with how this is done. And there are going to be some wild things coming in. For instance, it's in all of us. We're concerned about the environment. We're concerned about how we treat each other. And we want to put substantive provisions in, but we don't know if the rest of the gang is with us. I mean, I think, Bob, I thought your environmental dictator was brilliant. But I really do. I don't know if it's legal, but it's brilliant. And the thing is, I don't know that everybody else is going to go with us. So putting stuff in that infers something's there that isn't is not a productive way. It's not a productive use of time. And so I think there are some good ones that come out with good wishes, but in a preamble, that's generally all you do. For instance, lurking in the background of what Bob suggested was, what about the rights of nature? And of course, we've already heard a presentation about that as to whether a community includes a community of all living things. I know I'm getting poetic here, but a lot of people feel that way. And the problem is the charter can't put in substantive provisions. It can't create new rights. It can only create new positions. It basically says, here is the mise en scène. Here is where people stand in this opera. Here's where they move. Here's how they move. But it doesn't give them rights. Only the legislative body of the state or the county can do that. What we can do in the charter is to say there will be ordinances to carry this out. And it has to be done by the county council, not by us. And it's
Mhm.
complicated. But you know, we're
Right.
really the caboose on this thing. We read at the front, but we come at the back because we don't know what we're talking about yet.
You know, to understand the function of the preamble, what I do is I look at the United States Constitution and its preamble. And just like Bill said, that preamble in the United States Constitution does not create any rights through
Right.
either the other things that are found in the Constitution or in laws. But it is very important because it sets out some aspirational goals. You know, in order to form a more perfect union, you know, provide for the common defense. That's a particular thing, you know, and that's in the preamble. It doesn't set up an army or tell you how the army works or anything like that, but it does say that is an aspiration to provide for the common defense. So I think a preamble can be very important, but it's true what Bill says. You can't put in the preamble and so there will be, it'll be set up this way and this is what's going to happen to make this dream or thought come true. That's not in the preamble and it shouldn't be. I think we probably all agreed with that. Did you have anything, Liz, to add to this conversation?
So Bill, I wondered if your recommendation was along the lines that we should suspend our meetings for 3 months, you know, maybe ad hoc ourselves onto the other committees and then, you know, move this process forward when the whole committee is beginning to head in a direction, or I'm just, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I think, well, we could start thinking of some things. For instance, one of the things I was thinking about putting in the preamble, one of the things you can do in the preamble, and I think it's what Bob was moving toward, is you can make comments about the interpretation of the charter. As an example, it would be interesting if we put in a provision that said something like, it is intended that the rights created in the citizenry of the county shall be liberally construed. Now, you could do something like that, saying, when you read this thing, read it with the idea of expanding these rights. It's not substantive, it's interpretive. It's midway between aspirational and technical. And that's something we could do. But otherwise, the other thing is at the end, we're also the nuts and bolts committee. And I have to say, this is a terrible job to be on because it all hits you at the end. You've got to make all the provisions fit because you end up drafting what exactly you're going to put to the voters. And that means you're going to show what gets changed in what. And you'll discover that when you change one piece of the charter, it's going to jiggle other pieces, and we've got to put that piece in too. Even renumbering, there's no, the state has a codification office, we don't. And so when you change the number of something, you could end up at 2 chapter 3s. That's a stupid example, but it gives you an idea about how minuscule our job is going to end up being at the end.
Thank you. Liz? I can't hear you. Do you all hear Liz?
You're muted,
Oh,
Liz.
Liz, you're muted.
Sorry, my
Muted.
bad. My bad. Bill, if you would just put my, that's great news though, 'cause that means I didn't interrupt you 3 times earlier. If you would just put the questions I'm tossing to you right now in the category of inexperience, I'm just working to gain some traction with you. So you just said that we're also the committee of the nuts and bolts, and we're going to get, how is the preamble the committee that does the final language of
Well, the way I view the chart that Bob just held up, showing what committee we're on, it was process, but somewhere I saw nuts and bolts, and I don't have it in front of me. But process, I mean, I'm not even sure what process means, because that's basically Kevin's
Well,
job.
Yeah, let me tell you that the process, I got this out of reading this to figure out what our charge was, okay? The process I'm talking about is not the process of the county government. It's the process of the Charter Review Committee and how the Charter Review Committee is going to go this step, this step, this step, and come up with what it wants. And two of the big questions that I got out of our charging document here were how the commission should go about gauging what problems have presented themselves in the county in the past 9 years that require addressing by amendment of our charter. Now, how are we going to get the input and then otherwise judge for ourselves what problems have presented themselves that need addressing in our charter? And the next thing is a review of the prior charter review process. This is where Bill can help us so much because he was on that charter review group. What worked and what did not work last time around, and the job of this committee, or the job is that review that I'm talking about, the job of this committee, or is it the job of the entire commission to look at the last charter review? I would not have thought to do that, but they wanted us to do that in this. I don't think we have to do everything that is in here. We have to decide, and I've also not put down on our agenda everything that's in here. Do we need to add things, subtract things? Have you all looked at this and got an idea of what our charge is? It's only one page. It's the first page of this document. And
Sounds good to me.
I have.
I'll go with it.
The yellow parts are things that you all have suggested.
Yeah, that's fine.
What, Bill?
That's fine. I mean,
Eddie, go ahead.
it makes it easier.
Yeah. I want to keep it more simple. My idea of this particular committee was just those rewording of the vision statement and the possibility of including a Bill of Rights. That was
Okay.
where I was at with this committee.
That's fine.
All of these others are
Those things.
I'm
things
with you
of the
all the
whole.
way. I'm with you all the way.
And Bill, one thing I disagree with you a little bit on, Bill, and it's probably just the way that I'm thinking and the way that you put things in this particular thing, because I almost always agree with you on everything you say, but I think that we don't have to wait for the other committees to come up with what the charter review proposals are going to be before we write our preamble, because I think we have as much right to provide that vision for the rest of the people, or to think about it and tell them what that vision ought to be. And I think they have asked us to do that by asking us to put the preamble together. And so I think that's our first job. And I'd like to start today on it. And I can tell you all, I mean, I included a stab at it. I took a stab at it myself. That's this thing here that was included as a exhibit to what I sent out. Have you all? Has everybody here had a chance to look at it?
Yeah, Bob.
The preamble.
Bob, it's Liz.
Yes. Yes.
Before we leave there, I just wanted to go
Yes,
back
Liz.
and address what Patty was suggesting. So are we in agreement
Yes.
that our job is to create the preamble and look at the possibility of the Bill of Rights, and that's the way we're defining our work as a committee? Or is that something we've landed on? Kyle, sorry.
Kyle.
Here.
Go ahead, Kyle.
It's your meeting, Bob. Okay. Two things. One, if I don't know if everyone can do this easily, the chat box, I know we're a small group, but the chat box might be helpful to kind of capture your thoughts as you go. I don't know if I'm using that, and if you can read that, I just want to respond and not lose thoughts as people are talking. I think in addition to preamble and Bill of Rights, there is some sense from the notes that you referred to, other people's input, that we do some version of a filtering of the existing charter document to see kind of that what's working, what's not working. And I don't mean that we fix and make sure we don't have, you know, 2 chapter 3s. That may come to some group, some committee later. That isn't what I see us doing now, but I think there is another piece. I would like to spend some of this committee's time hearing from, in terms of process, hearing from county residents, business owners, maybe some subset of electeds and department folks about what is working in process and what isn't working, and you know, guarding against where it's more about some other committee's work, like elected versus appointed, for instance. But I would like to spend some time on that. And, you know, if that's not the consensus, I appreciate it. But I think there's more to Bill's point. There's more to it here than just the aspirational front document.
Okay.
Thanks.
I would like to respond to Kyle, and then we'll hear from Bill, okay? Is that all right with everybody? I think that what you're saying makes a whole lot of sense, and what we heard from Liz makes sense. For me, it's kind of coming together, what our charge ought to be, and the road we ought to go down. The first part of it, I think we can handle now. And by now, I mean, I think we could start with at this meeting when this part of the discussion is over, and then at the next meeting, you know, to continue on however long it takes. And that is to deal with the preamble and whether or not there's going to be any kind of Bill of Rights that has been suggested. Then what would come naturally is the second part of it, looking at what the citizenry feels needs to be changed and all of that, getting that together and supplying that information to the other committees, to the rest of the commission, and also at the same time looking at the process that the last commission used and giving that information to the present commission in some kind of short report or presentation. Now, we can use the 2 upcoming town meetings to begin the process that we're talking about of finding out what the people out there want, you know, what they're worried about and what they would like to see changed. My own view is we're going to hear a lot of things that ought to be handled by changes in ordinances, not changes in our our founding document. But we will have to see. Bill, what do you have to say? You had your hand up. Bill.
I think
Bill.
a couple of things. We have a different dynamic running. We are running under modified Robert's rules, which allows the chair to speak and to vote. Gordy Peterson, who used to be my arch enemy, he got along, and I got along very well over the years, and ran it very carefully. He ran it under the old rules, where he did not speak. He simply ran the meeting, and the only time he ever voted was to approve our final product. He was perfect. What we have is a chair who has a lot to say, who has a lot on his mind, and wants to do a lot of things. And it results in a very different process. And actually, it's part of my concern is the chair's direction tends to supervene the group's direction, and it's the group that's we're trying to do. But I think we have a problem by adopting. I have to say candidly, I argued with Dick Grout about this before we met. He thought the new rule was great, but I think we're going to pay that price, whatever it is. The second thing has to do with how we learn about what isn't going on. The problem is not just what people think isn't working, but we have people in office who don't know themselves what's going on. And I can give you an example from Mylene's testimony, which really rattled me. I asked her whether in the budget process, whether they overlooked the comprehensive plan. And she said, oh, we never look at that. Now, the comprehensive plan is not aspirational. It has one large, sharp tooth in it that the county has forgotten about. It is a specific statutory provision that says the county is not allowed to spend capital funds on anything that is not in the comprehensive plan. Now, after the meeting, I discussed this with Randy. He went over this, the first comprehensive plan. He has never discussed it with them since. They've never asked him. That's not working. The people apparently, according to Mylene, now there may be other people because it looks like a scrum when they put the budget together. It's a bunch of people. And I don't know who checks to see whether the people's wishes expressed in the comprehensive plan are ever followed. And I think that's a fundamental problem, but it's something that Mylene is unaware of. And that's why part of our job is not just to ask people what they're unhappy about, but to listen carefully to our officials and figure out whether they know what they're doing and whether they know what they should be doing. And this is where we need to be as smart as they are. This isn't a citizens complaint division. It's really something where we have to figure out where the little pieces of machinery are working and not.
Okay, Liz. Liz,
Bill, are you saying that in that presentation that Mylene just did on the budget, that's the
Yes.
meeting you're referring to, and that she said in that meeting that, oh, they never look at the comprehensive plan?
That's right.
Okay, I missed that, and to me, that is appalling. So if that is the case,
It is the case.
then because they spend thousands of dollars and thousands of hours
Oh, it drove me nuts.
to
And I-
create that and hear from the community, and then not to listen to that. No, in my book, that's a line in the sand. That is intolerable. That is not how we would have the right to self-govern. So yeah, let's do it.
That's an example. And I will say the only other person who picked it up was Dick Grout, because I wrote him particularly. And I said, did you notice that? He said, yes, I did. My jaw dropped. You see, and each of us knows something different. That's the importance of not having a one-man show. We all know different things. We all look for different things. We all react to different things. And we pool what we learn and suggestions for it. So together we can put this thing together. But yes, it's there.
I just want to do a little housekeeping side trail here. Kyle, I have to tell you that the Zoom platform doesn't allow to enlarge the text. So I literally can't read what you're writing. If I, so anyway, and I want to hear what you're saying. So I don't know how to correct for that, but do you mind just chiming in?
No.
Is anybody else reading? Because Kyle's adding some great thoughts here, but I have to
Okay.
get my
I put
glasses
it in
on.
the notes. I
Yeah,
did include it in the notes.
Thank you, Liz. Just for process, I really value this one person talks at a time. I don't want to interrupt people, and sometimes it's not a counter or an argument. It's a cheer on kind of thing. But what Bill is talking about is an essential example of where our responsibility, whether we're a committee or the whole body, it should be charged with either making corrections to the charter. So these kinds of abuses is a little strong of a term, but these kinds of misdirections in county government get fixed, or we fix the process part so that despite being an elected, there's still a checks and balances that corrects for the will of the people, which is that's a big, especially with the time at hand, that's a fairly substantial charge. So Liz, I'm mostly, I'm in agreement. I'm not sure how the best way to do that, but I think part of it, to Bill's other point, is to bring in individuals who all have some sort of perspective or piece of the pie, and hear from them, and be able. One of the things I noticed as soon as I ran and was in the voter guide, the phone rang a bunch more, probably for all of us, and some of that were county employees, some of them current, some of them recently departed, who had real issues about how they were supervised both officially and then kind of in the hallway. So all of the relationships that you wouldn't read about or you wouldn't know about unless you were feeling that pressure, working in some department in the county. And I want to hear more of that, because that's the process that tells us, that's the filtering mechanism that helps us know what's working and what needs our attention.
When I was first associated
Bill.
with this county, there were 2 lawyers in this county. 2. One was the prosecutor, and one was John Lindy's teacher, Charlie Schmidt. And how many do we have now? Life is complicated, far more complicated than before. And one of the things that we'll have to look at, and picking up on what you're saying, Kyle, is that we have to decide whether, for instance, public positions or popularity contests, or whether we want professionals. And that's going to be the biggie, because we've got people who are grooming themselves to run for a public office, but they're not necessarily suited, but jobs are scarce in this county, and a good salary and a health plan are extremely valuable. And they always have been. And so you get a coterie of people supporting certain people for certain positions. But we're getting into a position where the requirements of the position are getting beyond them. And so there are glitches. And that's it's a fundamental thing, because it's a question of whether people are doing their jobs right.
I think, I don't know, Patty, did you have your hand up first, or did Kyle?
I
Patty,
only
go ahead.
wanted to say that we're already past our time now allotment here, so we have to think about that. We need to set the committee meetings, to a date. And I think some of what you're saying isn't part of our committee to decide. It's for the the charter review as a whole, and these discussions. I don't know. I just wanted to say that, we're over time, and I don't know whether somebody else needs this Zoom platform.
Okay. Patty, we're actually not over time. We are scheduled to go until noon. from
Oh
10:30
gosh,
till
I'm
12 noon.
sorry. I'm sorry, you're
we have a
right.
little
I'm
bit more
thinking it started at 10 and not 10:30. Never mind.
At some point, I'd like to make a response of some kind, but I think Kyle should be next. He had his hand up.
Thank you, Bob.
Kyle?
I'm just going to add to what Bill said and say, or ask the question to the group. When we went through people's individual ideas, the idea of kind of an annual review process, and the term limits idea came up. What committee is going to be working on that? Where did that end up falling? I'm not looking. Does anyone remember? I don't think that came into.
Just a minute. It's on this thing.
Okay, I don't think it came into process, but that's a place where, there is limited. Bill's points are great. There's only a limited number of jobs and well paid, high enough paying jobs, and having a mechanism for review once people get into place seems like another way to challenge this. I want to hear from you, Bob.
Yeah, Kyle, there are 2 sections that deal with what you're talking about, 2 other committees. There's the elected versus appointed, and right in there, they talk about the term limits for the city council. And there's also elections itself that talk about, elections obviously have to have something to do with term limits. if I can, I would like to just take a second to address something that Bill said, and that was about the position of the chair and what that position ought to be and what the chairman ought to do. I do have a lot of stuff in my addled brain that I think about, that I put together and want to come out with, and that I advocate for. If that's inappropriate for a chairman, then I don't want to be the chairman.
Exactly.
I would rather be a member and have someone else be the chairman so that I can propose those ideas. I also try to be careful not to talk more than anybody else is talking. And if I don't follow that, please call me on it, including you, Bill. Please call me on it and say, hey, Bob, you've been talking a lot, okay? I try not to do that, but sometimes I do. One thing I kind of was a little timid about doing was, after I had written up this proposed preamble, I was a little worried about putting it out there and suggesting it, because I didn't want it to sound like, oh, hey, Bob's got this resolved. He's not interested in anybody else's opinion. That is not the case at all, believe me. Bill.
My suggestion is,
Bill.
I have to leave early. I've got a continuing legal education class coming up to keep my law license alive. It starts at noon. But I think if we need to report to the body tomorrow, and I suggest our report be that we're holding off on the preamble until we see what the preamble is going to be about, but that we're working on the Bill of Rights, because we can do that. And then I think we should work on the Bill of Rights and exchange some thoughts, and we can do that between meetings, because we're a subcommittee that doesn't require this.
Okay, Liz.
I wonder
Liz.
if, just given that Bill needs to leave early and we still have a lot of conversation to get through, if we shouldn't get our ongoing meetings calendar set in place. And I know Kyle had said that this time works for him.
Works for me. I'm taken up on Wednesday mornings and Thursday afternoons on other board meetings. But I'm available.
How about Patty? Patty?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And Bill, will you consistently need to leave early? Sorry.
Yeah, I got to leave in about 10 minutes.
But will that be an ongoing conflict that we need to change? So or just today?
No, it's just today is my problem. Otherwise,
Okay.
we can have a longer meeting.
Okay.
So is an hour and a half okay? An hour to me feels too short. Is an hour and a half from 10:30 to 12 noon okay every Tuesday?
I'd like to suggest that since our meetings aren't public, we can extend by agreement. We can be far more informal.
Sure.
As long as we agree, we can just hang in there. If it takes longer, and nobody's blood sugar gets too low, we can keep going.
If that's what the group wants to do, then we can certainly do that. I, as the chairman and being responsible for the timing and all that, I would not want to say to anybody, okay, you've got to stay because we got another half hour's worth of discussion. But if the group wants to, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult even in an hour and a half to get in what we want to get, especially since everybody's got an opinion, which is important and good. It's what we want. Let's say that we nail down 10:30 to 12 noon every Tuesday, as long as we need to keep meeting. And I will make some kind of brief report to the group on Wednesday afternoon of what we did or accomplished, if anything, on the previous day in this committee. Okay? Do we now? Yes, Kyle.
I was just going to suggest that maybe one of the assignments for next week for us is, I'm in agreement with Bill about, I think there will be, I think the preamble will actually be a fairly I dare say, simpler process at the end when we get the filtering back from the group and can, there'll be language work, but the Bill of Rights, I think, is a good place to spend some portion of our time and to do that up front. And I'd also say, this is a proposal. What if everyone brought a list of people they'd like to hear from, whether it's in government or much like we're doing at the full commission, business or whatever, whoever people want to hear from, bring that list to the next meeting and discuss that as an agenda item and see if we can start hearing from people, hearing outside testimony. And I don't have a sense that everyone feels that kind of approach is important. So I'm not super wedded to that. Each one of us could filter, as we've done already, from the citizens. But I would love to have that component at some point.
Can I ask something? Does anybody here have any proposed Bill of Rights that have been submitted to us that is actually the text of the proposed Bill of Rights, not just an idea of we ought to have a Bill of Rights? Does anybody have that? Anybody seen that? Does it exist anywhere?
Liz,
Sounds like no.
Go ahead, Bill.
So,
I'm
Bill.
going to suggest we exchange lists of what we think they ought to cover. We could do that between meetings. We don't have to have a meeting for that. Bob can send out materials as we have. Each of us can do that. And then we see what we want to include, exclude, and why. Then we can talk about
I
draft.
have another question. But Liz, you go first, please.
So I wanted to reinforce what Kyle was saying. I agree that I would like to hear from, some of the concerned players in this. That to me, that would be valuable. And then I also wanted to address, Bob, what you said about you putting out the preamble. I in no way interpreted that as a forced play, not at all. I always appreciate when somebody is courageous enough to give a group a starting point. So, so thank you for that. That was my interpretation of it.
Thanks for that, Liz.
Right.
Let me ask a question about this Bill of Rights. Is it you all's interpretation that we are talking about a Bill of Rights for human beings, for nature, for both? Kyle, you're saying for both. Is that what everybody else thinks? It's like a Bill of Rights that includes all of us, but is more expansive and includes the orcas and the sea and everything. Let me tell you something about, and let me ask you where you all are on this, about the idea of rights for nature. My heart is right there. My brain has not yet arrived with that. My brain doesn't quite understand that. You're not going to see an orca in court suing somebody. Obviously, it's going to be, human beings are always going to be involved, and doesn't it come back to how human beings are affected by what we do to nature? I don't know. I'm not there yet, and so obviously somebody who is will have to lead that part of the discussion.
I think.
Patty.
Go ahead, Patty.
I just want to say, I wasn't convinced myself about the need for a Bill of Rights, even though I totally understand where that's coming from. And the most important thing I see to keep these islands the way they are is to make us all aware we need to keep these islands the way they are. I'm just not totally convinced that having a Bill of Rights at the front of our charter will do that, but maybe it is. I mean, I'm open to it. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that nature needs to sue to be part of that Bill of Rights.
You're
Bill.
talking to the guy who's on the Visitors Bureau, who's moving the Visitors Bureau toward nature's rights. And without those, this county is in the tubes. Everything here, the reason we're here is nature. What we sell to the tourists is nature. And actually, that's the problem, because as we sell it, we lose it.
Yeah.
And I won't go into this. I think it's a topic of another meeting, and it's a deep one because it also talks about creating new legal rights that don't exist up front, but they can do it in the background murmurings. And I can't wait till we get to it.
Interesting.
I've got to leave in about 2 minutes.
But Bobby,
Next meeting will be next Tuesday at 10:30.
Yeah.
I'll put that out and
Liz,
could you all
your finger.
get with
Liz.
me? Could you all send me? Yes, we'll get to Liz in just a second. Could you all send me suggestions regarding what ought to be on the agenda for the next meeting? Please email me.
and Pat, I
suggestions.
think Patty's
Liz.
notes will help reflect that, Bob. So what I wanted to say is, Bob, I wanted to go back to your point about, I love what you said, that your heart is there, your head's not there. And my understanding of having a Bill of Rights is to help as a species, the human species, move beyond the separation that we've lived as we are somehow separate and, can do what we want with nature. So when it's a combined, it acknowledges that we are a part of the same system. And if nature doesn't do well, there's no way we can thrive. If nature doesn't thrive, we can't thrive. That's what the proposal is about. And then Patty, coming back around to what you were saying about, not being sure of the need for a Bill of Rights, I'm looking and saying, how can our charter reinforce the comprehensive plan? It's partly why I'm appalled to hear this government doesn't look at it, but that charter review and our, sorry, I'm losing the words. Commission, who are we?
Charter review. Commission.
Yeah, so our home rule charter and our comp plan should reinforce each other. And since this is the nuts and bolts, we need to make sure the changes that have been made in the comprehensive plan have teeth in the home rule charter.
Wow.
Please,
Okay, we're done.
That
That's it.
that is such
please
a
read.
salient observation. That is a wonderful
read.
observation. Thank you. Who else has got their hand up? Bill?
Please read the
You got your hand
beginning.
up?
I'm sorry, Bill, what were you saying?
Please read the beginning of the economic section of the comprehensive plan. I wrote it, and take a close look at it. It says everything you've said. And does anybody read it or use it? Are we bound by it? No.
Yeah.
Only capital improvements, and that's why we must make it stick. I've got to disappear.
Okay.
Love you all. See you next week.
Thank
Bye,
you, Bill, so much.
Bye.
Hi, Bill. Hey, I have to say, group, that I have heard more things about the comprehensive plan and people wanting to get the comprehensive plan in gear and having us hook up with it. And I think what you said, Liz, about this question about how can our charter reinforce the comprehensive plan? I think that's huge. It's really important, and that we ought to take a bite out of that, or try to. What do y'all think? Yes, Kyle.
Yeah, I would say I think that's really true. I mean, that's a great fit. The comp plan is really pertinent to what's clearly important value-wise to all of us. But the 6-year transportation plan, the activity of the MRC, whatever the Economic Development Council is working on, all of those things and all of those entities and their work really need to, co-inform and steer the activities of the county. And I have some concerns just on my understanding of some of those people doing that work, that, it's very siloed, and that's getting worse because the county governance or the county government and all the departments are, I used the word atrophy earlier, which is too strong, but to save money, especially in COVID right now, we are losing both the knowledge base and the workforce to help with these subtle checks and balances. And I think this front-loaded piece for us to sort of filter and make sure that the charter is helping reinforce these important relationships is essential.
Wow, I know about the conference. I still take a look. I'd like someone in the know to explain to me what's that mean. You can't hear us? Can't hear me?
Try again, try again.
All right. Oh, I've somehow gotten muted.
We can hear you. The satellite is just a little out of range. Keep going.
Can you hear me now?
Try it. Yeah, give it a try.
Some people can. I was just saying that I don't know as much as I should about the comprehensive plan. I'd like to learn about it, and I'd like somebody to, who knows about it to give me a call on the phone and talk to me for minutes and tell me they know comprehensive plan, where it came from, how it is, what it is supposed to do. Because it really sounds from talking to other people that they have a real concern that we put things into that, and that they. It sounds to me, not knowing much about it, that the comprehensive plan is a place for good ideas to go to die. And if that's the case, we don't want it to be that. So, could somebody do that? Think about it and
So-
give me a call. Liz? Yes.
So Baba, I could help get you started. I've been showing up at those meetings regularly to make comments. But Kyle, I
Okay.
also wanted to loop back about what you were saying about all these other groups as well. I'm not as familiar. But one of the things that looking at least the comprehensive plan, and maybe true for the other groups as well, the energy and transportation or whatever those groups were that you listed, Kyle, is it already gives us what the people are saying. So in the comprehensive plan, they spent 3 years, I think it is, bringing different roundtable community hall meetings together, doing all these exercises for the people to weigh in on what mattered to them, ways of valuing things to show up what really mattered to people. So all of that, they hired a consultant group to review it. So it's got a lot of energy put into it. So it's one way for us to already hear from the people is to relate back to the comprehensive plan. And there's a committee right now, the comprehensive plan commissioners, who are trying to finalize what input they've gotten from the community and finish that document. And it's a challenge for them because people are rapidly, given what we've learned this past year about climate chaos and government breakdown and all those kind of things, they're rapidly introducing and revaluing, in particular, environmental issues.
And some of those key people,
Kyle?
the commissioners and some of the people working on that stuff are exactly who we get to hear from. And it doesn't have to be formal.
Yeah.
That is, there's no more sort of simplified functional government in my view than that. I mean, to have one arm of the government inform another one and share and respond to our questions and our thoughts too. To Liz's point earlier about sort of small text size, I put the comp plan link for the county in the chat notes, and it's really it's not easy, but it's a really kind of fun process of self-discovery if you went through that, Bob, and looked around. I'm not sure I'm the person to walk you through the comp plan, but let's have somebody come talk to us about it one of our next meetings.
And I could definitely line
It
somebody
really
up from
sounds
that.
like it could be a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob, I'm
Go ahead.
happy to line at one, if not two people to come and have them. Because boy, that just floored me that what Bill said about that the government doesn't look at that document. That is intolerable non-self-governance. Yeah.
So it's just a cloud floating out there of how people feel, and the government doesn't care about it?
I'm not sure it's that simple or that black and white, but
Yeah.
it's clear with Mylene that there's a too big of a disconnect.
Yeah.
Right.
So could it be part of our charge to, and I guess that's what we're all saying, to consider whether or not it's appropriate for the charter to be amended in such a way that the comprehensive plan becomes organic to the administration of our government. Right? Maybe?
I don't know enough about it. I mean, in the
Yeah.
charter, there's probably room to tighten it up, but it's more about this. I think this plays into some of the other questions about, how does functional government review somebody like the auditor to make sure they're doing the job we want, the job that the citizens want, which includes taking the content and the perspective of something like the comp plan into account when the budget is built, or when different departments are reporting or directed specifically. So I mean, that's something I think that the county manager might speak to, for instance.
And Bob, in
Liz.
theory, to build on what Kyle was saying, excuse me,
And
Patty,
then Patty.
to build on what Kyle was saying, in theory, I'm blanking on the gal's name that works for the county. What she was explaining to me is, in theory, all of those therefore, so you have the vision statement, then you have the whereases, and all of the therefores that come out of the vision statement and the whereases, the therefores are all to become ordinances, all to become bodies of law that limit growth, that protect whatever those things say. Those are then what make the guidelines for permits and the everyday things that operate the government. So if you-
So go ahead.
Yeah, so if you
Yeah.
open that link, you can read the whole thing, which is lengthy, or you can just go to the therefores. And those are the therefores, in theory, are supposed to be dictating what our government is doing for our county.
So it's a charge to the county council,
Yes,
basically. The
Yes.
citizens are sending a charge to the county council, and the county council has or has not reacted to it.
it does, but it could do much better. And somewhere it's written that, that document has to be reviewed every, Kyle, is it 15 or 20 years? And that's what this process that we just went through was all about. And then once that is finalized and it's put before the council, it is their job to enforce what the people have said that they
Okay.
want there.
Maybe we can talk more next week about what that resulted in. Patty, I'm sorry
Okay, I've forgotten.
I'm sorry, Patty.
Yeah.
No.
That's gonna happen, isn't it?
Do you have something you want to say or contribute, Patty?
I think I forgot what it was, and I'm trying to write down what everybody has
Okay.
and says, and it's so important, but
Yeah.
these notes are gonna be screwed. Oh, well.
I'm so sorry. Kyle, you put your hand up again?
Only to keep us on track for time. I do have a 12:15. I feel good about this progress and they're not rules, I guess, but the structure we made for ourselves, the meeting time and kind of the assignments for next time. And I think we could close soon, I guess. I don't want to, but
All right. Gotcha. Liz?
Kyle, I just had a question of you.
Yes?
In one of your notes, you say BOR. Sorry, what does that acronym mean?
Bill of Rights. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Duh. Obviously, thank you.
Are we good with closing now? I mean, I've got another couple of hours of stuff to say, but I'm not going to. But is it okay to close now and then meet next week? It's really a nice feeling, feeling like we want to go. There's more, That's a good feeling. We're not just floating around. So everybody good with closing now?
Yeah.
Sounds like it. I don't know what I'm gonna do about my sound, but I'll try and figure something out before
Bob,
next
be
week.
sure
I've
and
got a lot
stop
of
the
meetings between
recording.
now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Bob, be sure and
Thank
stop the
you.
recording.
Thank you. I wouldn't have done that.
Do that
Yes,
now.
yes, thank you.
And-
So I'm looking for a recording. Yeah, there it is. Pause or stop and bang. Do you want to stop the cloud recording?